Hello and welcome back to the Crafty Pint's Year in Beer 2024 series. My name's James Smith, founder of the Crafty Pint. We're well into that time of year where everyone's rushing around trying to type a million loose ends at the minute, so you just got me for this week's intro. However, it is a very brief intro as we're keen to jump straight into the rest of the show. First up after the break, we'll have Will and I chatting to two of our WA contributors, Jono Outright, who lives and works in the southwest of the state, and Guy Southern, who's been covering the WA beer scene for us for a number of years now. After that, we're off to Phat Brew Club to join two of the founders, Trav and Terri Moore. As regular readers of the site will know, Phat Brew Club have enjoyed an amazing start to life in the WA beer scene. They've had a great 2024 and they've got some really exciting plans for the year ahead as well. And it's just a really lovely, upbeat chat with those two. And then finally, we head to Copper and Oak to join the brothers behind the retailers who've been selling craft beer and other great booze to the people of WA for the last 20 years. They've picked up some major awards in the last year or two, and they're joined by Guy Southern, who's part of their team, as well as part of the Crafty Pint team. One word of warning in advance, there are a couple of moments during a couple of the interviews where the video quality gets a little bit glitchy. However, audio is absolutely fine, and we've done our best to get around it, and so you're not going to lose anything, even if you are watching it on YouTube. So without further ado, we'll head into the first chat with Jono and Guy, and see you there. Cheers. Hello and welcome to the WA edition of our Year in Beer 2024 roundup. In keeping with, I guess, the slightly convoluted nature of 2024 in beer, Will and I are recording this from Adelaide just to really confuse matters. How you going, Will?
Great, I'm great. And right now we're joined by Guy Southern and Jono Outrend.
Hello from WA, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Not at all. And how's 2024 in beer been for you guys?
Look, it's been another dynamic year in WA. As you would both know, WA tends to run kind of its own thing over here and is a little bit separated from trends and doing our own thing. I think one of the major things that's come up that might not have been touched on or people might not be aware of is, two big venue chains buying up a lot of venues around Perth. So if you look at ALH and AVC venue co's, they now own close to 60 or just over 60 venues in Western Australia, which probably doesn't sound like a lot, but with a smaller population, that's less access for smaller breweries to get beers on at local pubs. And that's all the way from up in the Perth Hills, further south, the southwest, up north. They've been nibbling away at this space, and I started to look at this mid-year and went, hang on, between the two of them, that's a lot of venues that a brewery can't get beer into. So
is it something that I think we've been seeing on the East Coast for a number of years now? Pretty rapidly, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. So it sounds like it's newer to WA this year then, and notable.
Yeah, definitely newer to WA, and I think I think the fallout from this is only going to be amplified in 2025. I think this then links back to venues. We got if you're a moderate sized brewery and you don't have a venue yet, that's going to create problems for you getting to market, depending on what your model is. But just at Found last night, they've obviously got a venue further south in Byford, about an hour away. But part of their strategy is bringing people into their venue and making sure that people have a great experience. But not everyone has the means to do that.
What about down in the southwest, Jono? Any sort of notable trends this year?
Yeah, look, I would say what Guy's just covered there has been applicable to us as well. Southwest is its own little sort of ecosystem of beer, which is quite cool. So there's definitely been challenges breweries have been working hard to overcome, but we are seeing a little bit less pressure from interstate and Perth-based breweries in the southwest, which is giving the local breweries a little bit more room to breathe. So I suppose for the punter, not necessarily the best thing to see a reduced ranging of Australian craft beer at venues and in bottle shops, but for local breweries, a bit more power to get more taps, to get a little bit more ranging, to rethink those relationships, which is really, I think, put a lot of the breweries in the southwest in a strong position.
Mm-hmm. I know
I think
it does feel like the Southwest is having a strong year. I mean, obviously, we're based in Melbourne most of the time. Rocky Ridge is obviously opened over there, but Bootleg has just come back. It does seem like a number of the breweries in the Southwest are kicking goals.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is a lot of, there's an alliance with Southwest drinkers and those breweries. But it is really cool to see that a lot of those breweries, Rocky Ridge, Cheeky Monkey, Beer Farm, pushing pretty hard into the Perth market with new distribution arms and new venues. So that's really exciting. And yeah, there's just a lot of really great breweries out here who, in my opinion, have always had to be good. With the tourist sort of economy is challenging. You got to keep yourself pretty busy for sort of 4 months of the year when there's no one around. And I think that's just paying dividends now that we've sort of hit this sort of challenging era of craft beer.
I think off the back of that also is if there's another theme that weaves into this is the general moderation in the types of limited releases in terms of styles and in terms of ABVs. So where 2 years ago we would have seen a heap of double IPAs and big hazies and that kind of thing. They're still around, but I'm looking at people that have a limited release as a hazy pale, which is almost kind of unheard of. Like that's you would consider that to be a cool range beer or a fairly approachable session sour as a limited release. And that's been pretty prevalent across all breweries in WA, I'd say. Just this moderating effect. Yeah, and that's probably also aligned to a lot of brands. And Jono, you might want to talk about this. People that are doing brand refreshes on core range and just kind of smartening up their offering and making it themselves relevant with what they've already got.
And do you think that is tied in potentially to the sort of wider economic situation? I know WA is a little bit immune to it, but I think it has sort of crept in a little bit. Do you think it's tied to that, or just maybe a changing of taste or a maturing of the market and people chasing less, huge ABV beers?
Yeah, I think that's a good sign of the market maturing. Is we're not seeing so many mid strength beers, I don't think, but more broadly speaking, beers are coming down in ABV, and I think that ties in with that uh, ranging sort of refresh from a lot of breweries, both across the sort of limited releases, but also core. I mean, just here in the Southwest alone, we've seen Rocky Ridge, Eagle Bay, Beer Farm, and Cheeky Monkey put effort into their core range and completely change things up. New products, new branding, and that's really exciting to see. But there is definitely you're looking at those beers, and none of them are sort of pushing above 5%, which is interesting.
And any other highlights from the year? Maybe starting with you, Guy, in the city.
I would say just to quickly pick up on that, another trend there is this West Coast pills. Call it what you will. WA's always loved an IPL, but the amount of West Coast pills, pilsners, 100-day pilsners, Cali, colds. I was at Found last night. They're doing Cerveza West Coasts. This lagerification, hobby lager space has absolutely blown up in Western Australia in the past 12 months, and it seems no sign of stopping. Um,
What about in terms of new breweries, either in the city or north of Perth or regionally? Anyone else sort of new or even established that's really been kicking goals in 2024?
yeah, I think if I think about smaller breweries, Freestyle over in Bassendean, you're really small, family-owned business. We're talking a team of like 4 or 5. They open their cellar door for 4 hours on a Saturday. They have come on significantly in terms of quality and the range of releases. Their hazies in particular have found a lot of fans. So I definitely give them a hat tip at the moment. We saw Fox Friday open in Burswood. Boundary Island and Finlay's picked up a bunch of like significant awards. Obviously, Found's opening, and I'd say also, and John will probably speak to it a bit more, but Margaret River, the growth of Margaret River Beer Co. They've just exploded in the last 12 months. So I don't know if that's a good segue for you, Jono.
Yeah, I do have Margaret River Beer Co. on my list. Yeah, the guys have been doing really well. I think they've really brought their standard of beer, their marketing, their strategy up with a lot of the other bigger players in the Southwest, which is really exciting to see. Outside of that, I think the Southwest, we haven't seen a big push for new venues and breweries out here so much, but there has been a couple of standouts. Servo Tap House, I think, is just offering, an Australian high standard of craft beer venue in a tiny little town. We've probably got a couple of thousand people in it.
It's my dream to one day go there. It's genuinely, I wake up in the night thinking about traveling there.
I'd love to have Servo
it's-
Tap House in Melbourne, to be honest. If if he ever wants to up sticks and move to the city, which I'm assuming as he's launched it in Quaritmup, he doesn't want to be in the city, but it's pretty epic.
It could happen because I'm not sure if he's from Melbourne, but he's definitely worked in and around Melbourne. But yeah, seeing locally produced beers from small breweries like Quaritmup Brewing Co. Alongside these really big, amazing European breweries and American breweries is pretty cool. And then another one is Poorhouse. They're based in Dunsborough. New owners a couple of years ago, and have just been building that craft offering. Big focus on local beer, which really leans into the sort of trend around the place. And the other thing I would just say is, my day job is sales and beer sales, and there's a lot of dialogue building at the moment about CUB and Lion Nathan and their contracts and their value to a venue. So while we're struggling to have those conversations with ALH and AVC, a lot of smaller places are starting to question why they would have Swan Draft over, say, a local lager. That's really exciting. That's really interesting dialogue. Definitely something I'm paying attention to both in my day job and as a craft beer fan. I think we'll start to see a few more taps in smaller venues and smaller bars and cafes and restaurants, which is kind of cool.
I think from a Perth point of view, that's intriguing in the southwest, but the absolute dominance of Swanee D and Guinness in the city just links back to that, and no one's questioning it. It's almost there's a rejection in some parts of craftier offerings and going for simpler stuff because it's available. So, and James, I know you and I have shared a few Swanee Ds when you've been over west.
I was about to say, you made a point of taking me to is it the Navy Club in Freo
Yeah,
to have
yeah.
one with the lookout over the building. So maybe you're part of the problem, Guy.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. You talked about standout moments. You talked about standout moments also, James. Probably the one of the biggest this year is Beer Farm and Nail buying out Feral. Like, that's absolutely huge, and it was one of the biggest stories on Crafty ever. So I think what's going to happen there will unfold over a longer period of time in 2025 as they get a handle on what does Feral look like, what does Beer Farm look like, how does Nail fit into all of that space. But it's pretty exciting, and like to have Storwood owning Feral is just wild. Like, just an amazing concept and an amazing craft beer journey for him.
And I guess we'll be talking about John a little bit more next year when he ticks over 25 years of Nail. So, but we'll leave that one. Well, maybe that's the perfect segue into what are you hoping to see, or what do you expect to see from WA Beer in 2025?
I'd like to see. I'd like to actually see an audience getting more involved, and breweries getting more involved and bringing an audience in. Like, there's not a passive, we open the doors and people wander in now. You've got to be engaging. You've got to build. I keep talking about building your tribe, and with that, it's this Cali cold Cerveza thing, and that's the hook to get people in the door over a Swanee D or a Guinness. That's going to be super important for WA beer going forward, and then you can have a barley wine.
And what about in the southwest, John? I know we were talking the other day about a bit further south, Wilson moving into a new place in Albany. So there's movement down there as well.
Yeah, I think interesting what Guy has said. I think similar sentiments out here. It's that owning your postcode kind of mentality.
Yeah.
We've all seen in craft beer over the last 12 months that your best route to market is straight from the brewery. The closer you can sell the beer to where it's made, the more money you'll make. And I think a lot of breweries are going to grow on that concept. They're going to realize that they need to up their tap house game, their venue game. But also, I think with that, I think we're going to see a lot more activation around beer. We're going to see more beer-centric events and dinners, festivals, street parties, car park parties, all that kind of stuff. I think with the demise of the big festival, not just in beer, but across the world in music and art and everything else, the smaller, you know, brand in hand style activations are going to grow, and that's really exciting. And that's how you get more people on board with what you're doing and with craft. And yeah, I think we'll see more of that. I hope to see more of that.
Before we wrap up, what about any standout beers from across the year? Anything that you really loved?
Like myself personally, look, I am enjoying the West Coast pills kind of styles. Eagle Way's 90-day pills is always a welcome arrival on the brewing calendar. Core Range, Margaret Beer Co.'s River Dogs landed really well. Lucky Bay's Mountaineer whiskey barrel aged barley wine was absolutely sublime. Likewise, Campus's Prom Queen.
And Jono, what about you?
Yeah, not going to lie, there's been so many, and living in the Southwest, I always make sure I shoot up to Perth and grab lots of goodies out there. But from the Southwest specifically, things that I've written up over the last 12 months, Margaret River Beer Co., Beyond the Pines, and their Chill, both really impressed. Early in the year, Beer Farm Native Series, Goza was stunning. There's been so many wins from Rocky Ridge, but they're never heard of it. Oat Cream IPA. I don't care what anyone says. The Oat Cream IPAs are delicious, and Rocky Ridge do them really well. And Boston had heaps of really great beers throughout the year. Their Wattle Seed Red Rye Pale Ale was awesome, and their Little Ren Nolo, non-alc was I think that's just such a fantastic effort in the non-alc space, and definitely a go-to for me throughout the year.
Fantastic. Well, Jono and Guy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
No worries, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.
Mogwai Labs is proud to present our Year in Beer series. Mogwai has one of the most diverse yeast collections available for brewers and other beverage makers in Australia, including classic strains, mixed fermentation and forage cultures. Visit mogwailabs.com.au and get in touch today.
Trav and Terri, thanks for joining us.
How you going, guys?
We're good.
We're good.
Probably not as well as you guys, though. It's been a pretty phenomenal year for Phat Brew Club on the back of, I guess, many phenomenal years since you decided to head down this road. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the last 12 months?
Yeah, it's been pretty insane, mate, to be honest, and a bit of a roller coaster. It's obviously year 2 for us since we opened here at West Perth, and the journey that we've been on in getting our beers out more further in WA, refining our beers, getting our food offering right here has been a really cool one, and one that's been really enjoyable. We keep talking about this fact that we're trying to create this culture of good times and have a lot of fun, and that's just about us having a lot of fun with our beers and food, and trying to make sure that everyone comes here has a really good time. I suppose what we've started to look at the start of this year was how can we get our beers into more people's hands and create an experience like what we've got here in West Perth for more people. WA is pretty spread out. We're pretty notorious for the fact that we're very much spread out over about 150 k's. So sometimes it's a bit hard for people to get to your venue if they live quite far north or quite far south. So we really wanted to look at, can we set up another site and bring all the fun that we do here to that? And so we went on a bit of a journey to try and find a location, and ended up landing on a really super cool spot, which is in Hillary's Marina in Perth. It's a pretty iconic tourist location, located above the water. Super cool if you're into your boats and what have you. It's just a lovely spot. So we started that process just recently in getting the design done for that. And obviously, as part of that whole process, excitingly, we went out and did a crowd equity raise as well, and managed to raise $1 million, which I think we were super humbled by, particularly in the current time. Mm-hmm. Times are tough. I think we all know that. So for us to be able to go out and raise $1 million and be the first private company brewery in WA to be able to do that was something pretty special.
Yeah. Now you talk about fun and creating a culture of good times, but Terri, on the inside of the business, doing this and growing so fast, is it still fun, or are you just chasing your tail the whole time?
Oh, look, for me personally, I think 2023 was not fun for me, and I think for a lot of us, we didn't have time to just have a breather. But this year, 2024 has been just brilliant. Like, surviving, for a small business to survive the first year alone is like a celebration moment. Our first birthday party was just like a big, I don't know for you, but for me, it was like we made it.
Thank God we're still here.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I'm not involved in the day-to-day runnings of this. I've got a day job, got the 2-year-old as well. I think I'm around more for events and merch and a bit of social media and stuff. So that's been my role after we finished up the home brewing part. So I guess our first year, I was coming in quite a lot to do stuff, and now I'm able to come in and relax and enjoy the place. And I think a lot of us feel that as well. Like, we've got a great crew around us. There's just some, like, the people that are working here, the day-to-day grinders, the brew team, kitchen staff, front of house, just amazing. Ryan, who's taken over the marketing and the socials, it's been brilliant, and I've had to do less, so I actually don't do much anymore. So this year's been really fun and enjoyable. And then not just here, the festivals as well, like Froth Town and Frio Beer Fest.
Yeah.
Well,
I was over for Froth Town and had an absolute blast, and it did feel at the time, being from Melbourne, that there is this energy in the WA beer scene that maybe isn't everywhere else at the moment. Like, does that sort of continue on outside of those major festivals? Do you still feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite funny. I still feel that we're relatively new in the industry, but then new people come along. It's just brilliant. Like, we've got a bit of a banter going on with the guys down at campus at the moment. Margaret River Brew Co. are just they're like our family. Bright Tank guys. It is brilliant. It's a really close knit industry. I feel.
And that festival is super cool.
Yeah.
Like, Froth Town is we see it as like just our chance just to go nuts and just express ourselves, I suppose. So that's why we did the whole like Willy Wonka theme.
Yeah.
With all of these different stupid beers like blueberry pie and what else did we have? Scrumdiddlyunctious stout and all sorts of different stuff like that. So I think that festival is really cool because it's not just about the beer. There's a lot of other cool, fun activities happening as well. And
that's the vibe.
Yeah,
we bring the party,
and it brings a lot of demographic in that may not necessarily be into craft beer normally, and sort of showcases that, which is cool.
Yeah, well, when Will came back, he said there was just a massive queue and a massive like gathering around your stand the entire time, every session from start to finish.
Our beers definitely like lend itself to that.
Yeah.
You know, we can do the big hazy boppers. We love to experiment with new and fun and exciting stuff, and then we do our stupid beers like bubblegum sours and all of that, which, you know, at festivals like that, people just want to try something different. And like, I think those beers just allow people to go a bit silly and go, oh, I want to try that bubblegum flavoured sour, whatever it might be. I know Will had his fair share when he was over.
Absolutely, yeah. I was blown away, but yeah, I really stuck with that crowd. When I could get a beer at the Phat stand, it almost gets challenging at certain points.
The Phat sometimes are a bit like.
Are going to be allowed to come back, or is it?
I think next time we go together.
Yeah. And I mean, you touched on the festivals and some of your mates in the industry as well. Who else is sort of exciting you, or what else are you seeing, I guess, in the industry that's really keeping you upbeat and stuff?
I think for me, and this is, if they were our mates or not, this is what I'd be saying. But I think Margaret River Beer Co. are definitely the ones that had a standout 24 for me. They went from a brewery that's similar size to us, doing a couple of 100,000 litres a year, to a brewery that can do over 1 million, had the whole rebrand, took out trophies at every single major tournament or awards this year. Indies, Abers, and Perth are all show. So the beers that they're punching out are super quality, and they're doing some. They're not just doing the big production core range stuff. They're doing their experimentals as well, and I think leaning
Those
into that
IPAs,
whole
yeah.
Margaret River, West Australia sort of side of things too is really cool.
Yeah. Like for me, I would say them as well. They're hands down probably my favourite brewery apart from us in WA. Like their core range is phenomenal, and also their IPAs, their experimental IPAs have been my favourites this year. The King Rose IPAs as well, actually. I've been loving
There's a
them.
theme there. You
Yeah.
like IPAs.
I've gone from I'm Stout's probably my roots. Got a fridge full of stouts. Actually, got a fridge full of stouts and Reese Lopez's Evil Megacore. Oh my gosh, got a fridge full of them at the moment. I can't get through them. They're delicious. The ones that I've opened are delicious. So I'm actually quite excited about getting into a few more of those.
The problem is they're about 8 or 9%. So.
And they're big.
Well, with a name like Evil Megacore, you're not expecting sort of mid-strength or light beers, are you?
No, they're really good beers.
Reese is a great brewer, so it'll be interesting to see if he does tone it down a bit, or if he keeps going on the high ABVs. But I mean, everything his beers have always been very well received within the WA community. So yeah.
And just wanted to go back to with the venue. So people haven't been to Phat Brew Club in City West. You've got a 400 capacity venue, which is huge for any venue. And I know when you first took it on, I think Guy and I were chatting. It's like he goes, it's in a really good location. There's buzz around the brand, but Jesus, like that's a big thing to chew off. And now you're obviously taking on the second venue as well, and the first venue obviously is killing it. Is there like secret recipe you've got that you think is working to make that a venue that size really kick off?
I think a lot of what we do is just be real and try and just be ourselves, and everything that we do here is pretty much linked back to like I said before, having a good time. And that's the food, the venue, and the beers, and we don't take ourselves very seriously, and I think that really helps because people can sort of relate to being a bit stupid and being a bit fun, and all of our bright colours and everything that we've done with the brand, and people have just really latched on and jumped on board with that. And I think the whole club culture that we've created, which really has come about from the fact that we were all part of the same football club at the start, and then created this brew club. People have really wanted to be a part of something, and I think that's a massive part as to why our crowd raise went so well as well. People wanted to jump on board and be a part of this, what seems to be a really cool and fun time, and a good crew to be around who enjoy good food and good beer.
Yeah, it was interesting. I know when I was in there a few months ago, I bumped into an old mate from Melbourne I'd not seen in years, and he'd come in on I think it was a Saturday lunchtime from Freo with a few other his mates who were all dads, and they brought the kids with them to give the mums a few hours free on a Saturday, but they felt that the kids were all happy as Larry as well. So it was like it was a win for everyone. The mums got some downtime, the dads all got to come to the brewery, and the kids all got to play outside, which seemed like a bit of a win all round.
Yeah, I think we've got a bit for everyone here. So we do have that awesome alfresco area out the back. I mean, there was a car park there originally when we moved in to start the build, and Trav and his dad landscaped it to make it quite a nice family friendly area. So we get quite a lot of people when they're booking, please can we be near the sandpit, please can we be in the alfresco area. So yeah, that's quite good for them. We've got the arcade games and the pool table, which we've got a new little climbing frame in the playground, which is quite nice. But it's quite funny to see the kids on the retro computer games as well that we've got in there. But there's also little quiet spots as well. I've noticed when I've come in on a weekday, there's a older guy with his little dog sitting on the stool there, and he's got his laptop open, working from home. So he always finds a little spot, and you get people just sat on their little quiet corners, just away from everybody else.
I think because it's so central, so easy to get to.
Yeah.
That's a big plus for us. And I mean, this place was falling down around our ears when we first got it. It had sat sat dormant for 13 years, which I think is pretty nuts. The fact that it's, as you two both know, it one station from the city. This should be a real hive of activity here, and that's really what we've been trying to create since we got here, is give people a reason to come to City West, and create a precinct that's got a little bit of life and fun about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, my favourite part is the buck hunter. And before we get finished, what about next year? Obviously, you've got the other venue on the way, but is there anything else that you're really excited about?
I think we're really excited about where we can take our beers. We made some real leaps and bounds this year, I think, in the quality and consistency. Really getting that brew kit dialed in. I'm super excited for us to start to try to build some of our own styles with some tweaks and changes to some existing styles that are around, and also getting into some more new and fun ingredients. But really getting our beers super dialed in, and having some more fun. I think we did about 35 new beers this year, which for a brewery of our size, that's going at about 3 or 4 a month. So look out for us to be doing something similar next year.
That's great.
Okay, Trav and Terri, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very
Legends.
welcome. Good to see you.
See you.
If you're looking for the very best liquid yeast cultures, be sure to talk to Josh and the team at Mogwai Labs. From their original lab at the University of Wollongong, Mogwai have recently expanded operations to meet growing demand with a new custom-built yeast production facility in Port Kembla. Mogwai are the experts when it comes to the right yeast for your beer, whether that's a classic European lager, an American or English ale, or a wild ferment with Australian foraged yeasts. Their extensive yeast library has the whole world of beer covered. If you're looking for the perfect pitch every time, head to mogwailabs.com.au today. That's mogwailabs.com.au.
Hi guys, welcome to the Crafty Pint podcast. How you going?
Excellent.
Hey James, good and you, man? Hey James.
I guess before we get onto why we're chatting to you guys about sort of Copper and Oaks 2024, can you give us a little bit of a background as to what Copper and Oak is? Your background in retail, and I guess your position within the WA market.
You go, Joe. I would obviously be the older one to go first. Short story: started retail liquor in South Africa when I was 20, so I opened up my first business. There for 10 years, moved to Perth in 2003. Just generic bottle shop, went through a couple of brands. Wasn't really identified in the market, and paid a squillion bucks for Nelio to go to uni and get a marketing business degree. And then I went, right, got to put that to work. And we pretty much went to Brain Cells, which was a branding agency, which was kind of indirectly connected to Little Creatures back in the day. And we kind of liked that vibe, and we thought, well, it makes sense to go with them. And spoke to them, and we came up with Copper and Oak. And like I said, the rest is history. But the short of it.
When did you make the turn into craft beer then? I mean, not just craft beer, but obviously high end everything. Wine, spirits. When did that happen?
So 2003 bought Chewett Hill Liquor. And then we had exponential growth in 4, 5, 6, 7-ish to 8. And then the big green machine came to town, truly known as Uncle Dan's. And they pretty much it was all about price, and they pretty much went for everything and everyone. And it was, independent wine producers. It was spirits that were from a smaller production or were less, they didn't have the attention that the majors were interested in because they're too small. And ultimately, the big one that actually we saw that was working was beer. Then everyone remembers the word of boutique. Boutique beer was the one. And I went, well, I'm going for this boutique beer because I want to be boutique, in words like niche. And that wasn't even my thought process. I wanted something that was different, but also good. In comes Little Creatures, and we were ordering Little Creatures from Little Creatures, delivered literally in a van. the back of a ute by the half pallets and pallets, and we were just flying through it. And then, just bring in everyone else now. Bootleg Brewery from Margaret River was a big player for us, Mash Brewery back in the day. And it was pretty much whatever was made well, sold well, tasted, it just worked. And we were like, who else is there? And we just literally opened up the door for there was a lot of trial and error, that was for sure. But it was pretty much anything that was, it wasn't even the independent thing that played a card for us. It was just anything that was good, well made, and I could sell.
But I guess, part of the reason we brought you on for a chat today is because you've had a really incredible 2024, and I think 2023 was none too shabby as well. So I mean, you guys, do you want to tell us about the success you've had as a store, as a brand over the last year or so?
Yeah, like going on sort of what Josie said, and last year was 20 years that we were in the industry in Australia. So that was the Chewett Hill store. And Guildford's first birthday, Guildford took out a couple of great awards as well. So that sort of set us up quite nicely.
Do you want to tell the people what the awards were, Nelio? I feel like you've been...
Well, look, 2024 for us was probably, it was a great year for Copper and Oak in general. So we took out the Swan Chamber Best Retail Experience, which is awesome because it's much more sort of localized awards night, I suppose, but based from local businesses. So it's great.
23.
24. Yep. Best Retail Experience.
This went better in rehearsal.
Just to show I'm paying attention.
Yeah, so that was great because it was, your local sort of City of Swan, Guildford locals that sort of get around those awards. And then we managed to pick up quite a big one, which was the Liquor Stores Association of WA. They hold the industry awards every year, and we managed to snag Metropolitan of the Store of the Year and overall WA Liquor Store of the Year. So pretty proud.
And didn't this guy that you've taken away from me, didn't he pick up something along the way as well?
Well, that goes back to 2023. It was very first employee award at the LSA, which is the Liquor Stores Association's award. Guy Southern was nominated and took out that award, and it was the inaugural award. Actually, it was the very first one. Which
a bit of a dream team. I felt less bad about the fact I have less of his time now, and I'm like, okay, he's pretty good at what he does. He's landed in a good spot. And in terms of like the success you've had, is there a secret to your success? Why do you think it is that you've at the same time as you're expanding, you've actually picked up, these major awards, back to back year on year?
I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a secret. I just think we know what we want to do and we enjoy what we do. There's a lot of time and effort that gets involved, even from just our staff in general that come in. And the most important thing is putting a smile on a customer's face. In the 20-year video, the one thing that stuck in my head is what Josie said, is that you just got to break customers out of their routine. And a lot of times that's what it is. The customer will walk in and it's like, "G'day, how are you?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm good." And they go do their thing. We don't do that. It's, you're almost snapping them out of what their normal routine. And that sort of drives them to be a bit more happier when they walk in, and it drives us. And with that, it's just a spiral effect. You're happy doing what you're doing. Everything else just falls in line. There's a lot of stress, don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of conversations that we have, but you need to have those conversations in order to grow. And that's sort of, I think, where, we've got a good team at the moment.
And talking of the wider community in WA, you'll have seen, hundreds, if not thousands of different, SKUs of beer come through from the local community this year. You'll have been aware of, who's on the up, who's new, who's maybe on the down in WA. Any sort of notable trends you've noticed in terms of drinking habits, or what brewers are releasing, or what consumers are looking for in 2024?
I think sessionability is always been talked about, but I think more so now. I've noticed a lot of my regulars and my big, independent, let's call it that, craft beer supporters are buying a lot more of those midweek beers, or if they're having those dry days Monday, Tuesday, there'll always be these like 2.5%, 3% of beers that they just want to have a slightly healthier kind of habit about it. You can't have two kids running amok and still got some work to catch up on, and then have a conversation with your partner, and you've just had 7% RPAs, and then expect it to be anything decent. But you know what? You want to have something that you can have when you get home, have with dinner. So sessionability, 100%. That's we've noticed that our doors on, and we noticed it straight away because we're having to buy more. So yeah, our session doors are getting a little bit bigger in terms of offering, because people are asking, and on top of that, those beers are getting better. Margaret River Beer Co. with their Mermaid is absolutely fantastic. Blasters mid-strength, another one that's done well. I mean, one of your stalwarts, Nels, MVP, really well. But like, if I see the basket buying, there's definitely a lot of that going through. So,
and what about what about breweries? Are they new breweries or established breweries that are sort of causing the buzz this year around for you guys with your drinkers?
Well, we sponsored 2 trophies at the Royal Beer Awards, and our package trophy winner for package pale was actually Boundary Island in Mandurah, and heard of them but never realized that they actually had package until that day. So passed the trophy on to them, and but meeting Ben and speaking to them, and I was like, oh, where you guys? And they gave me the story. I convinced my family the next day on Saturday night to go for dinner, going, oh, we're just going to go down the road, in my head thinking it was a 40-minute drive. It ended up being an hour and 10 minutes. Go to Boundary Island for dinner because I wanted to see what the venue was like. Because winning a trophy is great, but sometimes you can put in the best beer that you made for a competition, if you get what I'm getting at. And I got down there, and I just went, yeah, these guys have got their game on. And for me, that's probably the one for this year that really stood out was the Boundary Island Brewery, but that XPA, there's that pale ale was absolutely phenomenal. It's definitely a venue that you want to go and you want to book, first of all, but it's just picturesque. It's in the canals. I think they're really onto a really good recipe there. They cover all your beer styles. So they've got your lager, you got a midi that works really well with the, more your older market, but they're facilitating for everyone in the craft scene. So pale ale, they got their sours. They're in that sort of lemon lime spritz market as well. So
what about you, Nelly? Like, any highlights for you beer wise?
I think what's interesting is obviously Jose and Guy spend a lot of time at the Chewett Hill store, and it's definitely a different client base to what Guildford has. It's slowly changing towards what the Chewett Hill store is, but the change towards smaller craft here has been pretty good. It's still very much a macro store in terms of a lot of tradies come in and they enjoy their staples. But there's been a bit of dabbling, which has been great. And, we actually spoke about it earlier, and lager has seen a little bit of a resurgence as such. And that's probably what's picked up here, and as well as the sessionability, like my brother says. It's people are wanting to take a 4-pack, a 6-pack, 8-pack to venues or to the beach or wherever, and that's definitely come back round again. So although my brother loves a 7% West Coast IPA any day of the week, he's often picking up a 3.5, and that's his drink when he gets home. And then that just shows that if he's doing it, how that's actually filtering through into our customers. It's exactly the same. So
Rest assured, I haven't changed, James.
He's loving wildflowers, table beer every day of the week.
Yeah,
2.5 Guy's been loving it.
It's a ripping beer.
It's definitely it's definitely got into that role.
Yeah, the other one that we've done well, which is probably one of our top collaborators, is King Road.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think the secret sauce is their venue really helps sort of transcend that brand of theirs, because when you get there, your beer's got to be amazing, but your food's kind of got to match it as well, which it definitely does. We did our first collaboration then last year by bringing in the old school IPA, which is my nostalgic hit on when, Sierra Nevada Torpedo landed here, and you got that old, the 3 C's came in there. So what is it? Columbus, Centennial, and Cascade. Yeah. So give me pine, give me resin, give me dank. They pulled back on the dank because they didn't feel too many people would appreciate much of it. and it absolutely just went gangbusters. It was one of our first beers in our advent last year. It was so successful. We actually did another batch this year, and we outsold our volume collectively, retail and advent, just in retail store this year. And the response on that, and it wasn't obviously just about us. The customers were really appreciative that the beer was extremely well made, but it did exactly what it said on the label. It was an old school IPA, and the guys that are buying them, they were going, man, yeah, this really reminds me of when we all started this journey. And I just puts a smile on my face, not just because it's a well made beer, but because it's King Road, it's WA, extremely well made, but it reminds you of the good times. And like most things, you always remember the past as being good times. And if it's a can of beer that does it,
I should have worn the old school T-shirt that Guy sent me as well for this interview. I wasn't thinking ahead. And I guess back to you guys. So obviously, in terms of what's in store for you guys in 2025, I guess a lot of focus is on your third store. And aside from that, so looking ahead, do you have any sort of hopes for beer? I know the WA beer scene's probably not been battered quite as heavily as other parts of the country, but looking ahead, what would you like to see?
Yeah, I mean, going off that and going back just a touch, it's pretty important to maybe reiterate how important the bigger breweries like Eagle Bays and them have been for us. Like, there's still a lot of love that they're giving back and we're giving to them. But the importance of these smaller breweries coming in is really setting a different sort of, I suppose, position for independent retail. Those Eagle Bays and the Rockies, they're going to keep getting bigger and bigger. It's these smaller guys that sort of give us a point of difference. So the love between the bigger breweries and the smaller breweries and independents been pretty good. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's pretty important to, not always concentrate on one segment. We think both are pretty important for us.
So for 2025 and what Nelly's saying about, and we're talking bigger breweries, the bigger independent ones.
Yeah.
If I look at one of the successes we have is our collaborations and making sure that word collaboration is exactly what it is. We sit down with the respective brewers, and one of our first ones was actually with N8. We did an oaked IPA, and then following that was Eagle Bay's oaked Vienna Lager, which this is our fourth year that we've made this collab with them, and that's kind of the angle we're staying with, because it does a lot of things in that it always represents the brewery. So Eagle Bay, it represents us, but it also represents that we actually go. It's not just another lager; it's something that we believe in. And like I said, bring Eagle Bay back into the focus. So 2025 is definitely about our collaborations. We might have space for maybe another one more or two, depending if time or
one maybe.
He's already putting that in there.
It's already here.
Guy's already got his
schedule,
his mood board happening and everything to get everything going.
And I think that's the big thing. And again, I reiterate that word collaboration. We sit down with these brewers and producers because we've got a product that we feel has got a gap in the market. We would like to bring it in. Everything's got to be right about it. The label's got to be, it's got to have the message of what the beer is about, but what we're about. So 25, definitely about that. We'd love to move into other segments of collaboration. So obviously in beer and spirits, in wine and spirits, that's a different ball altogether. But I think that's the big thing. 25 is definitely bringing more of those collaborative opportunities. I think with 3 stores, we'll be able to speak to a lot of these producers on a numeric level that they're going, okay, you can give us the efficiencies and the scope and the scale for us to make these things for you. But yeah, I'm very cautious about not going into I want our own home brand stuff. I don't want to hide anything. I'm put it on the label, be as transparent about it as possible. If it works, absolutely fantastic. Gets a tick. We'll do it again next year. And if it doesn't, well, there's something we'll learn from that. Consumers are our best educators. They'll tell us.
Just take your name off the label.
Black marker.
I think this is the full circle in this conversation. Is where we started was talking about community and culture, and a lot of the collaborations we do at the shop, we make a point of actually not doing many. Like we'll do, I think we've got four or five. That's it. But when we do them, I've spent the best part of a year working on one that's getting launched next week. So that's really getting involved with the team, working out the why, who are we doing it for, why are we doing it, what does it represent. We're not interested in putting 2 logos on a beer can and trying to sell it. And part of that is because over time we want to build interest and get people excited about the beer industry in a market which is contracting. So if we don't build robust collaborations, then it is just more noise and we're adding to this debris out there. So partly it's because it's fun for us, but we want to build durable connections, if that makes sense. And probably just celebrating good local businesses in beer, in wine, in spirits. I think beer-wise, if you don't have a good sense of who you are, who you're doing it for, and why you do what you do right now, 2025 could be quite challenging for you. You need to get that stuff all lined up and then represent yourself well consistently. There are still small players coming in that are knocking on our door, Hog Culture up in the hills that are putting out 1 or 2 beers a month. And if they can do that and it's sustainable for them, then maybe just stay at 1 or 2 beers a month. You don't have to go for world domination.
Yeah. No, I like it. Well, I think if we just summarise, basically, so there's a lot of C's in here. Copper and Oak is basically the church of craft beer, from what you were saying earlier. And your own 3 C's are community, culture, and collaboration. So I think that's seems a pretty nice spot to sit in, I reckon.
The Crafty Pints Year in Beer series is proudly presented by Mogwai Labs, leaders in liquid yeast solutions. For the perfect pitch every time, visit mogwailabs.com.au. That's mogwailabs.com.au.
The Crafty Pint podcast is produced and edited by Matt Hoffman. You can get all your beer-related news and reviews on the Crafty Pint website, craftypint.com, and can stay up to date on future podcast episodes via our socials.
We wouldn't be able to produce the podcast or the website, events or festivals we run without the support of the beer industry, whether that's suppliers, bars, breweries or bottle shops. If you'd like to support the show or partner with the Crafty Pint in other ways, please reach out to Craig via the details in the show notes.
And if you're a beer lover who'd like to support what we do, you can join our exclusive club for beer lovers, the Crafty Cabal. Visit craftykabal.com for more.
And until next time, drink good beer.